Hi, everyone, and welcome to Marketplace Masters, the podcast where we uncover the agency strategies behind thriving on Amazon and beyond. I'm your host, Paul Sonneveld, and today we are exploring an exciting frontier for e-commerce growth, namely LATAM expansion. Now, to guide us through this really dynamic and rapidly growing market, I am thrilled to welcome two incredible guests, Charles Pixler and Freddy Neuman. Let me briefly introduce them. Let me start with Adam. Adam is the co-founder of Capybara Ads, powered by AMZHit. He's been at the forefront of helping eight-figure global brands break into the Mexican market through platforms like Amazon and Mercado Libre. Since moving to Mexico in 2013, Adam has immersed himself in Latin American culture, dedicating the past decade to mastering e-commerce in the region. His expertise spans Amazon Marketplace optimization, advertising, and sales strategy, all while fostering collaboration and building high-performing teams. Freddy is the founder and CEO of AMZHit, and he leads a dynamic e-commerce agency that drives over $5 million in monthly revenue for LATAM brands expanding to Amazon USA. A seasoned Amazon consultant and serial entrepreneur, Freddy has a proven track record of identifying scalable market opportunities and delivering actionable strategies for sustainable growth. Together, both Adam and Freddy bring a wealth of experience and insights on how to successfully launch and scale and thrive in LATAM markets. Adam and Freddy, welcome to Marketplace Masters. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Paul. Excited to be here.
Excellent. Great. Let me move a little bit back. I think my camera is a little in my face today, but we'll work on that a little bit. Cool. So let's kick off, right? I'll start off with you, Adam.
Yep.
Why is now the right time for brands to expand into LATAM? You know, what trends are you seeing? What makes it attractive?
It's how a lot of people maybe that might be kicking themselves in the butt nowadays saying, oh, I should have started this then, or I should have bought this then, or right now is that time of getting on the boat, riding the train. How Amazon was 12, 13 years ago, with less competition, less saturation, lower cost per clicks, that you can launch into a country, into two major platforms at the same time. Right now, Mexico is a very primed place to get started, get launched, come in, plant your seed, get some roots, get rank, and then just grow with the market as it goes. Right now is the prime time, because I remember when I started my Amazon journey in 2016, cost per clicks were low. You could launch a product and get into a lot of different categories, get some pretty quick success launching. Now on Amazon US, you've got to do so many different bells and whistles. You got to build a brand. Not saying you still don't need to build a brand anymore, but on Amazon Mexico, you can come in, you can bring in your reviews already from the US, and you can really come in and get a foothold very, very quickly.
That makes absolute sense. So maybe just to build on that, Freddy, I mean, how do you see the most significant growth opportunities? You know, what have you observed in LATAM? You know, especially comparing to other markets. I know you've been active in lots of other markets, but how do you look at the opportunity?
Well, that's a good question. What I like about Latin America and Mexico itself, first of all, is the fastest growing market. Like Mexico is doing 25% year over year in growth. So that's on Amazon, right? That's bigger than any other. Then the proximity, shipping is easy and convenient and in the same time zone. So if you have the stock in US, shipping it to Mexico is super easy. I know there are some programs. Amazon has a program that you can sell remotely from US to Mexico. But once you ship your units into FBA Mexico, you're multiplying your sales by 5. So that's a lot. And the remote sales could be like a fast test. But once you ship the units there, you will grow much faster. And lastly, local warehouses in Mexico, they're not FBA. Like Amazon doesn't own the warehouses. but they're private warehouses where they have the FBA or the Prime label. So as they're private, they are also being able to ship to Mercado Libre, which they are called full. So if you ship to one warehouse in Mexico, for example, and you sell through Amazon, you have Prime. If you sell through Mercado Libre, then you have full, that is also 2-3 days shipping. And then if you have your own Shopify or social media or whatever, they still can do the pick and pack. So you unify the warehouse in Mexico, and the logistic is super simple.
Does that mean, I just want to clarify that, so you have you can have warehouse solution in Mexico that still allows you to do Prime fulfillment, right? That's what I heard, but also it's also part of Mercado Libre's preferred warehousing approach. So you're sort of killing two birds with one stone, and then you get the bonus of actually they can ship to third parties like Shopify or others as well.
Exactly.
Have I understood that correctly? Yeah.
Exactly. And what is more, Mercado Libre is sharing like 55% of the market share versus Amazon.
Yeah.
So you must be on both. Combined, you get about 5% of your total US sales, approximately. So for 7 and 8 figure sellers, that's quite a lot of money on the table.
Yeah, so you're thinking if so that 5%, and we'll get into that a little bit more, but as an estimate of like if you've got a well-running account in the US, you're doing, I don't know, $1 million a month, then a 5% on that is reasonable. Is that what you're saying? Would you consider 5%, best practice or kind of minimum expectation? How you sort of contextualize the 5%?
Yes, it will may depend on the category and the niche, but
Yep.
roughly on average across the board, I would say 5 is super good without trying to kill the competitors or anything, like having your piece of the pie.
Yeah, no, understand. And I think your point, obviously, about the warehousing having one solution, I think that's always a concern, right? When I'm sending stock to international markets, and then the fragmentation for 5%, people go, oh, too hard, too difficult. But actually, the fact that you've got a one-stop solution is very, very compelling. Now, before we move on, I do want to talk about, obviously, we've talked a lot about Mexico here. Why is that? I mean, I kind of know the answer here, but just for our audience, in the context of Latin America, why is Mexico maybe your first beachhead? How do you think about Mexico in the context of the rest of Latin America? I mean, clearly, you've got things like Brazil. I know Mercado Libre spreads in a lot of other countries. There's rumors about Amazon launching in some other additional countries in addition to Brazil and the like. How do you contextualize Mexico within the broader LATAM opportunity?
Yeah, I can take it. I'm local. I'm from Argentina to start with, and I know the taxes in Latin America is super difficult, the imports of the goods. So starting with Mexico, it gives you a rough idea of the amount of sales you can do in Latin America, and if the product is appealing to the Latin American market. So once you're settled there, the next step is keep growing on Mercado Libre and keep growing on Amazon, on the different marketplaces that they have. But it's kind of a headache on terms of tariff, because if you pay the customs for or the importing for getting into Mexico, you should be waived in order to resend it to Brazil and sell from there. So depending on the type of product, each of the product has a different engineering how to ship it from Mexico to Brazil, or maybe you have to do a stop in Uruguay, ship it there, change the label there, and then ship it to Uruguay. So that's like a second step once you realize that in Mexico you're killing it, because Mexico is kind of the cherry pick is right there to get it, and I will start definitely with Mexico and then carry on with the rest of Latin America. But the complexity is mostly on the customs.
Yeah, no, get you. I think that sounds like once you've had success in Mexico, you really need to think about what is then the specific strategy for your specific product. To determine what markets should be in, but also how do you, it sounds like importing tariffs, how you move stock around, whether you even look at some local manufacturing, whatever that looks like, is going to be very sort of seller, product, country specific. So there's probably a bit of a strategy piece that needs to follow there once you see that success, and once you've obviously tapped out in Mexico and you want to go and think about what's next. That makes sense. Adam, did you want to add something there?
A couple things. With change of government in the U.S. Here in about 12 days, it's going to lead to a very interesting next 6 months. And I think interesting and also exciting. And then by the new administration already announcing certain proposed tariffs or fees or so forth, Mexico is already starting to respond. They're already putting in certain tariffs for other countries. They're already looking at other areas where they can do trade agreements. They're finalizing a really good trade agreement with South Korea, and that's getting finalized here soon. So it's very interesting how it's all going to be positioned over the next 6 months, 12 months, year and a half of, can you start doing more manufacturing in Mexico, depending on the niche. And then also too, you could start compartmentalizing your business, of different areas around the world of manufacturing. Like maybe certain things will still continue to, stay in Asia and manufacture over there. But one example is with the textile industry. Shein and Temu over the past couple of years have really hit the Mexican textile industry. And one thing that they just implemented on December 19th, December 20th, is that any finished textiles coming into Mexico are going to get hit 35%. So that's one great opportunity there to say, well, there's a lot of textile factories in several cities that make high quality textiles in Mexico already. Maybe we should do that and manufacture it in Mexico. And then, like Freddy had stated, the proximity to the U.S. shipping wise is another advantage. So there's all of these interesting things that are going to be going on, along with infrastructure investment from both Amazon and Mercado Libre. In 2025 alone, Mercado Libre is going to be investing close to $2 billion USD in Mexico. And then over the next 3 years, Amazon will be investing several billion in Mexico alone. So with that, getting that foothold and then growing with them is going to be a really good strategic foothold. And then another thing to add on too is a lot of sellers that hop on down from US down to Mexico, they can bring those reviews with them and already get a foothold and show that social proof for their brands. And then if you start also with Mercado Libre and plant the flag in Mexico, then you can start picking off the other 18 countries that Mercado Libre is live in as well. So there's a lot of things here that that the flags are being planted and the foundations being laid for these growth opportunities over the next couple of years.
Thank you, Adam. That's great. I mean, just sort of my takeaway so far is very high growth, big investment. Mexico is your first port of call. Think about tariffs and how you route products. If we have time at the end, I have a few follow-up questions on that. So I think we've covered the opportunity to some extent quite nicely, which sort of begs the next question there, right? And I'm going to throw this one to you, Freddy, which is, okay, once you've decided that it's an interesting opportunity to explore further, right? What are the critical steps that brands? I'm assuming your advice is not just go and open up a store and go. What are the critical steps that brands should really do before they launch to ensure they maximize their chances of a successful entry?
Exactly. It's not something you can start tomorrow. It's a process, right? So to start the process, for me, it's a market analysis. Estimate the market depth. We talk about the 5%. Okay, make sure it is actually 5%, or it could be more or less. But make sure the market is there, because sometimes the product is not appealing to the market, or there is a big local brand that is killing it. So we need to check that. We check it not only on Mercado, on Amazon, but also on Mercado Libre. We have pretty similar tools like Helium 10 and stuff in order to look for the amount of sales that our competitors are doing. So combined, we get to a number of the market depth. And the other point is profitability. I mean, the good thing about being so close is logistically super easy, like by air, by sea, by land. You can ship the product in your car if you want. It's super easy, but the customs is a headache. So make sure you know which is your tariff, which is your product, custom tariff, in order to know how much you're gonna pay for incoming the product. Also work with local players. Like you need local custom brokers, you need local legal and taxes, local warehousing. Also make sure you have someone on the ground who can double check something there, so you're not just doing it remotely. Finally, I will say, make your team. I mean, it's not just like selling in Canada that is the same keywords and the same listings. Everything is the same. Launching into Latin America or Mexico itself is kind of a little bit more demanding, because you need to translate the listings. We see a lot of sellers, almost everyone is not translating the images. So I know they translate the keyword, the copywriting, which is super easy, but they don't take the time to translate the images. And it could be kind of annoying for the local people, because they feel, okay, you don't deserve to be translated, just purchase as it is, So that's a good thing to do, translate it and redo the keywords, because the keywords are going to be totally different, right? It's going to be in Spanish. So make sure you do the SEO on your listings, on your backend, and also run the keywords in order to push for them on PPC. And finally, again, take advantage of this situation of launching and be the first movers. Not only because what we mentioned about the early stage of it, but also we have contacts on Amazon. I don't know, Adam, if I'm spoiling something, but we have contacts on Amazon. They are really trying US brand to expand into Mexico and Latin America, and they are able to waive some fees, some referral fees, or pay for some consultancy and stuff if we show them the business that we are bringing from US to Mexico. So make sure you get that. Now that they are offering it, we have the links in order to bring it in, and it's not going to last forever, for sure.
It's one of the great, I mean, particularly for our US audience that are not sort of, experiencing Amazon, an emerging market again. Actually, Amazon is quite willing to talk to you if you're an emerging market, and they're willing to help you out. And even, we've seen that here in Australia as well. We're happy to do co-events, promote things, give you a lot of referrals, and waive a lot of fees, and really help, suppliers or brands as they build that catalog, which is a bit of a different approach when you're in a very mature market and you're struggling to even get a response sometimes. So certainly worth taking advantage of that. Just a minor follow-up question for you, Freddy. Obviously we're talking mainly about sellers in the US, and that makes sense. But some of those sellers in the US may operate in the EU. They may already have listings in Spain. To what extent do you still need to optimize any sort of Spanish listings content you have in Spain for Spanish-speaking markets in Latin America? Obviously, I understand like language is language, but there's also always cultural differences, expressions, search behavior. It's probably a big topic in itself. But in terms of, I'm looking for like kind of a headline answer around, how different is that, and how much time should you invest even in tailoring maybe existing Spanish listings that you have access to?
Yeah, that's a really good question. How different is the Spanish from one side to the other, right? In terms of the language, it's the same. I mean, the way we talk is different, The way we make the phrases could be a little bit different, but at the end, the keywords are the same. So at SEO, I would say you can pretty much keep it the same listing, but the copywriting could be a little bit different. Also, I'm not considering the slang because it depends on every product, the way they call it, especially if it is a new type of product. So I would say 70% of the listing could be untouched, especially the images. You can keep it. And then the way you phrase some stuff on the copy, you may change it. But the keyword should be the same unless you have some slangs to change.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that, Freddy. Adam, let's get on to some fun stuff, saying this tongue in cheek, but a regulatory and regulations and all of the stuff that takes years of our lives. Maybe I'm being a little harsh here.
No, you're right. Yeah.
what are some of the common regulatory pitfalls that brands face when they're expanding to Latin America? What advice do you have them? How can they avoid them?
Well, it all starts with the border. I'll start at the border, then work my way all the way down to, pretty much down to accounting needs. First off, with the border, just to get product into Mexico, you need to have permission to import that product. If you don't have permission, you need to go through somebody that has a permission. If those of you out there listening, you start to hear words like comercializadora, something like that, strong business license, they have to do a certain amount of revenue to help you get the product in. If you talk with a customs shipping broker, there alone is not gonna just be able to help you get the product in. They usually work with these importers that have the license to bring it in, and then also to not only having that listing, that permission, you might also need an additional license or additional piece of paperwork, depending on your product and your niche, to get it into there. So just there, you've got quite a process of a lot of paperwork just to get it into the country. Then from there, getting into the country, you need to make sure that anything regulatory is prepared, that you've got your compliance ready. You want to do all of your homework, get, dot your I's, cross your T's, get everything ready, even just before that, to get everything, because here you could get it and, customs and importing, they're really quick to hit you with a fine. If you don't have everything ready, have it. So that's why you want to work with the right customs broker. And dealing with people that are local is such a huge benefit, and it's going to be so helpful for you because they've been there, they've done that, they know how to deal with these offices government-wise. And then from there, you got to start looking for a good accountant, a good accounting team, and that use up-to-date softwares. Mexico, you have to file your taxes monthly. It's a month-by-month basis. It's every single month. So that's another thing that a lot of people get hit with, like, oh, well, in the States or in Europe. Well, no, it's a completely different ballgame here. So you got to, do that every month, and you got to make sure that you do your homework and have somebody that is familiar with e-commerce, familiar with Amazon, familiar with Mercado Libre. More and more of these accounting firms are being created, are getting better and better in helping sellers. There's several that Freddy and I can help you out with. They're great. They're even been partnered with Amazon. Amazon has vetted them, great experiences. So just hiring local, getting those right people in place is great. And then also to, I guess, take a couple steps back is before you even want to import, you got to check what niche you're in and what tariffs might hit you. For example, we've recently been talking with a textile company. They do some baby clothing, and with that, December 20th, like I mentioned earlier, Mexico has been hit really hard the past couple of years in the textile industry. 35% import tax on what you're going to be selling it here in the market. Not from cost of goods, but what you're going to be selling it at in the marketplace. So you want to make sure that you're checking the tariffs. And then also too, with those tariffs, sometimes it's getting harder. Anytime that things get harder in marketplace and harder in business, I love it, because then it's just another opportunity for somebody that's willing to be patient and work hard and say, oh, well, there's a solution there. Maybe I can find a factory in Mexico. Then from there, maybe you might pay a little bit more cost and goods compared to China, but then less shipping, proximity, like Freddy mentioned earlier, location. So that's really, really helpful. And then vetting, getting a good warehouse that you can trust with. Here in Mexico, we say always, do you recommend somebody in confianza, in confidence? So with that, getting all of these teams in place, then from there, and then from there, you get in the warehouse, and then from there, you can start playing your Amazon game in Mercado Libre to get you launched.
Polly, I think I made it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry. That's great. I'm looking at the clock, and actually, I want to get to the more of the meat and potatoes here. So we've sort of the market entry, the opportunity, the regulatory stuff. Let's actually talk about ads, right? Or we should probably talk a little bit about consumers as well. I'm wondering if we should go there first. What is the sort of the Mexican or LATAM consumer look and feel like, and how they're different to maybe the typical or US consumer. So maybe just for you, Adam, how does that consumer behavior really differ? I mean, what have you seen that, because you've lived in in both worlds, operate in both worlds, or you both have. How do you summarize the differences?
I'd say one of the main things for Mexico is Mexicans love brands. They love strong brands. They love strong established brands. And they are willing and they are open to trying other brands on Amazon and Mercado Libre. But they like brands that have a good amount of reviews. They have a good review average. So they're open to try these other brands. And then compared to in the US, where in the US, maybe there's some different things that will persuade buyer behavior to choose a newer brand, or less reviews, maybe a price point, or less amount of reviews or so forth, maybe a promotion, say, I'll try it for the first time they're launching. Whereas in Mexico, not as often. From here, again, back to a level of confidence. Is this an established brand? How do they look? What are their reviews like? That's very common buying behavior. If you're not a major brand, you need to be established. That's why what's really helpful is if you've already got a successful Amazon brand in the US, using those global reviews, bringing it down to Mexico, having those reviews already established for your ASINs is really, really helpful. And that's really, really helpful. They're very price sensitive as well, especially with the past couple of months with some volatility with the peso. For most of the year, around 14, 15 pesos per dollar. And then in Q4, got back up to 20, which was here for several years. So price sensitivity is a big deal. It's a more visual type of shopper. You're going to see them engage more with price and photos. That's a big part of the culture here. A lot of people still will shop in brick and mortar. And with that, Larry's onto like different buying behavior. We have found that the better the photos, really, really help out the sales compared to your copywriting. And then they're big with wish lists. Wish lists are really big in Mexico. Putting it there, adding to cart, into there. So getting to that cart is really, really helpful. Being sexy to that shopper is really helpful. And then also too, they like to see that you've got some reviews. So those global reviews, if you've already launched in Europe, having those global reviews, things in Spanish is really helpful. And then also too, you got to be mindful that in the US, Prime memberships, it's a common household bill. kind of subscription, whereas in Mexico, still about 10% of households here. But that's going to really be growing. However, here in Mexico, getting over that prime foothold, you go $25 or more, free delivery, which is about 500 pesos or higher. They're going to give you that free delivery, which is really helpful. And also to be competitive, because they're going to check you back and forth between Mercado Libre and Amazon, because Mercado Libre, their shipping is very, very competitive as well. It's going to get to your house quite quickly.
Right. So if I pass it back to you then, Freddy, like, how does that translate into kind of advertising strategies, both from a point of view of, obviously, in the US, heavily reliant on advertising to drive your business, with maybe a couple of category exceptions. What does that look like in Mexico and LATAM, both in terms of cost, the advertising kind of options and tools out there, and also in terms of consumer behavior, tying it back to Adam? How would you what are the key points you'd make?
Right. Starting with the cost per click is like 17% less than in US. That's about, we were talking about, it's not saturated at all. It's a green land to start. So you can leverage a lot on ads because it's super profitable yet. Having said that, you have all the sponsored product display and everything you have in US. And our favorite is the video display, where you show how to use the product and stuff. Latin American people really engage with the video and understand better how it works and stuff without having, to read the listing. They don't want to really read. It's easier if they, in the search, they see what they were needing. They go straight to it. And also we were working mostly with 7 and 8 figure brands. So they have a lot of good content and video display they're shooting on US. So when we bring those brands into Mexico, they leverage on the amount of reviews. So they come up with 5,000, 2,000 reviews already, and with a great content in order for us to run the ads. So that's kind of the sweet spot we found.
It's interesting you make the point about cost as well. Obviously, the video one, based on what Adam was saying before, actually is not that surprising, because he's saying people, it seems to be way more visual, right? They like pictures, like images. The cost is interesting. So 70% less on average. I think that's really relevant, because up until this point, you may be thinking, there's additional tariffs to play. It's just I'm loading a lot of cost into my product P&L here. But we know that in the US, there's significant portions spent on advertising, in terms of, tacos, right? Not uncommon for it to be 20, 30%. So obviously, if you're only paying 70% of that unlocks a whole lot of profitability for that. So I just want to sort of contextualize that. There's some ups and downs, some big swings, around the profitability, perhaps. Cool. So I'm just looking at the clock, and we're a little bit over, but I just want to sort of, wrap it up and really talk about, the broader piece. How do you build a sustainable growth plan? And maybe then the first question I have, 2 more questions here. I've got one for you and Freddy, and one for Adam. But for you, Freddy, what are the most common challenges, right? So this all sounds great, but the reality is we're dealing with life, right? There's always challenges. So what are the most common ones, especially as they relate to scaling operations in LATAM? And what advice would you leave with our audience?
Yeah, as I mentioned, launching in Mexico is not like launching in Canada. You need to translate. You need a team in order to work for the Latin American market with the listing and stuff. And you need partners in Mexico in order to do the taxes, the imports and stuff. But mostly on the operation of the marketing is different. So you rather understand who you're selling to. Also, many Amazon sellers dismiss Mercado Libre. So my point is, learn how to use it or hire us, but it's more than 50% of the buying in Latin America. So you rather learn how to use it. And finally, thinking in a mid-long term, because launching into any marketplace won't be like profitable on the first day. And as you mentioned, like the down ups and downs, the down is the tariff, like entering the products. The up is how fast and how cheap you can sell it with a good profit. So maybe on the midterm, you're able to find a local manufacturer, because Mexico has a lot of manufacturers. So maybe you can have a local manufacturer that design a product that could fit your catalog, and avoid all those downs by shipping inside Mexico, and then you rock in Mexico by using a local manufacturer. So thinking in a midterm.
Yeah, thanks, Freddy. As we wrap up, Adam, any final words of advice from yourself?
Yeah, reach out to us. Find us on LinkedIn. We have our contact info here. We are happy to do a full deep dive for any brand, and we'll run the numbers for you on both Amazon, Mexico, and Mercado Libre to say, hey, there's a niche here, there's an opportunity. And if you find that opportunity, then from there you can get started. But so many people say, oh, I want to launch there. Do your homework first, then go from there. But this has been a great discussion today, and whatever questions people have, we're really happy to help them out.
Great final words of advice there, Adam. Thank you so much. And thank you to both of you for really joining me today on the Marketplace Masters. I love the fact that I've picked up, and I hope our audience has too, lots of practical insights and perspectives that I wasn't aware of. And I talk to agencies in South America a lot. So I really appreciate some of the strategies, advice, that you've shared with us today. Thank you for your generosity. Now, you've already highlighted this, Adam, around getting in touch for those listening kind of live or watching this episode on demand. What is the best way to get in touch with you? If you're interested in a bit of a market sizing exercise or just a conversation, say, hey, Adam, or I just want to pick your brain. I'm dealing with this product. I'm struggling with a warehouse. Just to help each other out in terms of the Amazon community here. What is the best way to get in touch?
First, you can just share my email and Freddy's email. Contact us directly. That's going to go directly to my inbox.
I've got them here. Write them down quickly. So
fantastic.
It's Adam.Pixler at AMZHit, and then we've got Freddy, AMZHit.com, and then I've got a website here as well.
Yeah, Capybaras.agency.
Yep.
All three will work. Send us a direct email. We'll hop on a call and see how we can best serve you.
That is fantastic. Great. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to continuing the conversation and maybe doing an update later this year. Thank you so much, Freddy and Adam.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
Sure.
All right, everyone. That is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, if you're hungry for more e-commerce insights, make sure to check out our video on demand library at merchantspring.io, where we feature a wealth of content designed to help you thrive in the ever-changing Amazon ecosystem. And of course, if you are looking for really advanced analytics for either your agency or your marketplace business, whether it's tailored for Amazon sellers or agencies expanding into new regions like LATAM, don't reach out to me. We don't only support Amazon, we do Mercado Libre and 120 other different marketplaces. So feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn, and I'll be very happy to walk you through how Merchant Spring can assist. Last but not least, I am always open to hearing your suggestions. If there's a topic or a challenge that you'd like me to tackle on the podcast, just let me know. I'll work on finding the right guest or partner, and we'll dive right into it. Until next time, take care and keep building your marketplace mastery.